Hey everybody, it's Coach Jamie. So today I decided that I was going to share with you a meal prep. It wasn't a planned meal prep. I honestly kind of winged it with some things that I already had in my fridge. The recipes that I decided to cook were the CK chicken spaghetti, and then I also cooked shrimp and assembled my shrimp salad that I have been obsessing over for the last several weeks. And then I also cooked the turkey gyro meat which is in the cookbook under the turkey gyro salad. I also cooked some rice to go with the turkey gyro meat, as well as roasted some sweet potatoes. I hope that it helps kind of give you an example of not making cooking complicated. It doesn't have to be something that is super elaborate and takes hours and hours and hours. If that was the case, every time you had to cook, nobody would do this. I think that's one of the big issues that people have with actually sticking with healthy eating is that, you know, a lot of times we need to understand we have to cook for ourselves. Not saying that you can't eat healthy at a restaurant, it's just easier if you have those options available at your home. One of the things that I find the most beneficial about meal prepping, and I don't mean like doing like a week long of meal prepping. A lot of people do have to do that for their schedule, but it just saves time and brain space and your sanity during those really busy weeks. So for me, I work in about 3-day increments where I'm gonna cook enough meals for me to eat for about 3 days, and then I have to do kind of a midweek cook to try to get me through the weekend. That's what works for me, and then it also saves me time and not having to cook an entire week's worth of meals, which could take a really long time. I'm not saying that that's not doable, because there's a lot of people that do that and do have to do that, like say on a Sunday. But it's really important to figure out what you're comfortable with in the kitchen and what works for your routine. So yeah, it's great if you can like meal prep freezer meals for an entire month or something like that, but not everybody likes to do that. It's just one way to problem solve having these healthy meals on hand. That's one of our big goals for Clean Kitchen, is to make these healthy habits and meals actual, like attainable, you know, not something that is just seen on, you know, social media influencers and, you know, cooking shows and stuff like that. We really want real life application. So, you know, there's a few tips and tricks that we do use in our meal prepping, which is using different cooking methods. So within the Clean Kitchen cookbook and how we coach in the program is use a crock pot, use your oven, use your stovetop, all at the same time to get things going in different areas of the kitchen that are cooking at the same time. Or another thing which I used today was the protein meal prep or protein prep. You know, cook a bulk part of your protein that you're going to use for later recipes in the week. And then another thing is using some of the same ingredients in the recipes. So like today, you'll notice that I use bell peppers and onions for the veggies in the chicken spaghetti, but then also for the veggies in the gyro meat. So I just did it in one big pot, less dishes to wash, thinking about stuff like that. Now, one of the things that I did do for this meal prep to help it go faster is earlier in the week, I did a bulk protein prep. Now, if you've been in the Clean Kitchen 12-week challenge, you know this is one of the strategies that we use to help time management within the kitchen and when you're doing your meal prep. So for example, like this week, I cooked, well, it was 2.5 pounds of ground turkey meat. Half of it I used for the CK veggie soup earlier in the week that I made. And then I'm gonna use the other part of that turkey meat for the turkey gyro. And then for the chicken, I did crock pot chicken earlier in the week that I just kind of ate on, and then also made chicken and cheese quesadillas for Brian and Bishop. It was a pack from Sam's. I can't remember how big it was, but it wasn't the big tray of it. Anyway, I used half of it for the eating earlier in the week, and then I'm using most of it in the CK chicken spaghetti here. I did time it, but I will say that if I hadn't been talking on camera, I think it would have gone a whole lot faster. All was done, all was going on the oven and on the stove within 20 minutes. I hope that this helps you and kind of gives you some insight on my process. And if you find that any of this helps you in your process, even that's great, even better. So if you have any questions, please post some questions underneath this, and I would be happy to answer your questions. So let's get started. Countdown, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so first up, what I'm gonna start with is roast the things that need to roast. So anything that's gonna take a long time to get finished that I'm gonna need later, that's what I'm about to do. So I'm gonna cut up my spaghetti squash and get the sweet potatoes ready to roast. Sweet potatoes are kind of my go-to when it comes to my carb sources. Not that, you know, breads and stuff like that aren't fine to eat. It's just I find that I personally do a lot better using rice and sweet potatoes for my carb source. Getting your spaghetti squash ready. So a lot of people try to cut it like long ways, and you really got to put some elbow grease into it. But I don't know why I never did this earlier, but somebody said it like, why are you cutting it long ways? Why don't you cut it across the belly? And I'm like, of course, that would be so much easier. So what I do is I tend to stab it in the middle, kind of get it started, and then put your elbow grease into it. And then it just splits, and then I scoop out all the center. If I was going to roast this together with my sweet potatoes, I would probably just keep everything on 375. Roast my spaghetti squash with the sweet potatoes in the same oven. Once the spaghetti squash was done, I'd probably turn up the temperature to finish off the sweet potatoes. Or unless you chop up the sweet potatoes like in little slices, you could definitely cook them both at 375. The sweet potatoes would probably just need a little bit longer. This guy's going in here. We're gonna bake the spaghetti squash for about, I'm gonna check it at 20 minutes and see what it feels like. It may need 30, but we'll just check it. Okay, so that's done. The next thing we're gonna get started is our chopping our veggies, getting that ready. So for the chicken spaghetti, I'm really using the same vegetables that I'm gonna use for the gyro, which is bell peppers and onion. Oh no, my broccoli went bad. First I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cook a ton of onions and bell pepper in one pot. Now those are both gonna go towards chicken spaghetti and the gyro meat. I'm gonna separate it out and then add them together later. But in this pot, I mentioned I'm gonna be making some shrimp. So I haven't defrosted it. I learned this little trick from Mel's Healthy Meals, Melanie Roberson, where you just put it on low and let the shrimp slowly defrost. So it doesn't necessarily cook it all the way, it just defrosts it. So this is, I think it's a 2-pound bag of shrimp. Yeah, 2-pound bag of shrimp, frozen, and I'm just gonna put that on low and let it defrost while I do the chopping. One thing I do use to save time is frozen chopped onions, like lifesaver. All right, so since I'm doing 2 recipes, I'm probably gonna use about almost half the bag of this. That's gonna go in the veggie pot. You could also use, there are chopped frozen peppers you could use if you didn't wanna do this step. Another frozen veggie onion combination is this seasonal blend. I really like using those in recipes too. It's celery, onions, and I think bell peppers. Two of my favorite utensils that I use in the kitchen. I have a ton of tongs. These are like extra long fingers that won't get burned. So I cook a lot with tongs. I have some that are rubber, I have some that are metal, but really it's just, it tends to work better than using spoons. I feel like I have more control. The other thing is I love, this is my Rachel Ray lazy spoon. So you see the little handle, it literally like just pops on there and stays, so you don't have to get your counter all messy. We're only 13 minutes in and I've got the shrimp defrosting. That's not gonna take too long. We're gonna start cooking the veggies. We're waiting on the spaghetti squash and to finish so I can assemble the chicken spaghetti. I'm gonna get the rice done. So I was gonna make some rice to go with my Euro meat to kind of make a plate. I was gonna use green beans, frozen green beans and rice. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get the rice started. That's not gonna take long at all. 2 cups of water to 1 cup of rice. All right, here's some things I'm getting out. I'm gonna be adding later. So I use this a lot for recipes to add flavor. I'm gonna be using the Better Than Bouillon chicken, obviously in the chicken spaghetti, but then I'm gonna be using the Better Than Bouillon beef in the Euro turkey, but also with some frozen green beans that I'm gonna be making as well for another side. Really right now, all I'm doing is waiting for some of the stuff to finish cooking. So really you could be like cleaning any dishes you mess up, or drinking a coffee, listening to a podcast. The trick is to not choose super complicated recipes and to choose recipes that have some of the same ingredients so you don't have to keep doing the steps for every single recipe. It's already defrosted, but it's not cooked. So we've still got a few more that need to be defrosted, but it's all, it's not even that hot. So raw shrimp defrosted in a matter of minutes. That's just on low and covered. So thanks, Mel, for that tip. I use it all the time. And we can just go ahead and assemble my salad base. I pretty much try to make a salad plan to have a salad every week, because it's just, or some kind of bowl meal, you know, because it's just easy to throw things in a bowl and just mix it around. Like, for example, I could make a bowl meal out of the rice and shrimp that I'm cooking even right now. I'll do like a sushi bowl. Well, that's what I call it. It's not real sushi, but it gives you the flavors of the sushi bowl, because like I could use it for, I get rice, shrimp, avocado, lime juice, and either coconut aminos or soy sauce, and mix it all in a bowl together, and tastes like sushi. So I didn't even think about that being a meal, but that could be a meal out of what I'm cooking here. A little longer. We'll go another 10 minutes for that. So for my shrimp salad, this has been like, oh my gosh, I've been obsessed with this for several weeks. I do a spinach base, 2 handfuls of spinach. Then I like to use broccoli slaw as like kind of a filler and a little bit more texture in the salad, and obviously add a veggie. But I'll do a little handful of that. But really you could use any kind of like, mixed salad deal. Like the kale salad from Sam's, with like cabbage and kale and stuff. Just something to add a little extra texture to the salad itself. Then I'll add a little bit of the green onions, like do some chopped strawberries. Honestly, guys, this prep wasn't really all that hard. I mean, really the key here is not having to waste time in the middle of the week on cooking like, a lot of protein, because the protein's usually what happens to be the thing that takes the longest, unless you're of course baking like I am. But I don't know. It's like if you have that one step done, it's really just assembling. Now I like to use avocados as like a sub for cheese. I try not to eat a lot of cheese because one, it upsets my stomach, but oops, I think my stuff's too high there. But the avocado will give a nice feel in your mouth and the taste of like a fat source. So I really like using avocados. I'll use them in burger salads, anywhere where I want cheese. All right, our shrimp is ready. All right, now I'm just gonna turn this up to high. Put a little bit of olive oil in there. Put the rest of my garlic in there. All right, so to my shrimp, I usually just keep it simple because I'm using this in my salad, and my salad is gonna have a dressing on it, so I don't want anything that's gonna really conflict with that flavor. So garlic and salt and a little bit of olive oil. That's all I'm doing in my shrimp. You could also put some lemon juice in there if you wanted. By the time the sweet potatoes are done, we'll probably be done with the rest of this, because we're just kind of waiting. Turkey gyro, chicken spaghetti. Kind of helps if you twist. This little twisting motion into the flesh of it. You don't really need a really big spaghetti squash. I know some of them can be like ginormous, but I do tend to try to get the smallest one, unless of course you're gonna use it for, other things. A spaghetti squash is really helpful to prep before, just for handling purposes, because it is definitely harder when it's hot. So my already pre-made turkeys going in with the other veggies. Put a little bit of olive oil in there, lemon juice, a little bit of salt. We have some garlic in there, but I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little bit of extra garlic, oregano, and probably a little bit of pepper. So the lemon and garlic and oregano give it that Euro Mediterranean flavor. So really now all this is doing is heating up. I am gonna add a little bit of the Better Than Bouillon beef and a little bit of water. You could choose to not put regular salt in there and just use the Better Than Bouillon beef for your salt seasoning. That would be fine too. Done. Now let's do this guy. Chicken spaghetti, that's where I'm gonna add in this. Now I do add a good bit of the chicken bouillon into it. I feel like it does, like, you know, cream of chicken soup with the mixture of the cream cheese that I'm gonna use. Kind of gives that feel. So I'm probably gonna use about, I don't know, is that like 2 teaspoons maybe in the chicken spaghetti. We're also gonna add in our chicken. But you want about a pound, pound and a half in the casserole. And the chicken is just gotta warm through, and I'm gonna mix with. All right, next is, I use almond milk cream cheese in my spaghetti squash. Like I said, I can't really eat that much dairy, otherwise it like upsets my stomach. I use about half of a container in one batch. A little less, I may have to open up a new one to finish out this one, but I use that as my cream base. So it's about 4 ounces, 4 to 5 ounces of whatever cream base you want to use. You could even try to use some Greek yogurt, half cream cheese, whatever. And then after this is mixed, I'll top it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese, and then pop it in the oven. You could actually just eat this as is, because everything's cooked. There's not anything raw or anything, but if you find that your spaghetti squash is a little bit more liquidy or something like that, you could pop it into the oven on a high heat and try to dry it out a little bit. Let things set. Okay, so this is what my spaghetti squash looks like right now. Like literally, you can just eat that. And sometimes I don't even bother with the oven. I just straight up eat it out of the pan. So this is an oven safe pan. Now, if you needed to, you could transfer it to a glass dish, but I'm not messing up anymore. So I'm just gonna pop that in the oven for about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, and then be done. So pretty much that is the prep. It was under an hour. I kind of wasted a lot of time just dilly-dallying, waiting kind of in between for like the spaghetti squash to finish, and also like assembled my salad, which actually we'll just finish that up. So I was going to show you all the dressing that I use. I'm going to use Dijon creamy mustard. I just kind of squirt like maybe a tablespoon-ish in there. Then I pour maybe like a 1/4 cup-ish of cranberry pear, or I also like using the apricot. Their apricot balsamic is one of my favorites too, and interchangeable with the cranberry pear as far as I'm concerned. I have my handy dandy little mixer frother thing. Lots of people use these to mix up supplements, but I'm using it for emulsifying my dressing. And that is the dressing. It kind of tastes like a honey mustard. Put the shrimp on the salad here, and then I just drizzle it all on top. I'm serious, guys. Like, I'm addicted to this salad. You have to try this. But really, the only thing that I had to cook was the shrimp. And so that's done. Now, with the chicken spaghetti, I mentioned I was going to make some frozen green beans. I like to have those fresh, so I usually saute the frozen green beans with a little bit of the Better Than Bouillon beef and some garlic and a little bit of water just to soften them up. But I straight up start with frozen green beans and let them defrost. I cook them on high. So I'll probably pair that with my chicken spaghetti. Now, for my gyro meat, which is the turkey gyro, I could do a salad. But I figured I would probably just pair it with some rice and a veggie, probably green beans or broccoli. But I like to mix the rice with the gyro meat. And then, of course, I've got the shrimp, which I can use in a salad, or I could also mix it with some rice and do the sushi bowl that I mentioned with some avocado, maybe even some pickled cucumbers. But then the sweet potatoes, I pretty much put those with anything. So like usually at breakfast, that's where I'm eating sweet potatoes. But even if I need a snack with a carb source or something like that, I'll eat a part of the sweet potato with it. So, oh, and then the shrimp salad, of course, that I'm gonna be eating for lunch. So that, it took about an hour, but honestly, if I wasn't talking and trying to map out the steps for you guys, it would have taken me a whole lot less, because one of the reasons that I'd save time is that I bulk cooked my protein of turkey meat and chicken earlier in the week that I had used in some recipes. I used a fast cooking protein with the shrimp. That took no time at all. And then it's just simple recipes. I hope that kind of eased some people's, I guess, anxiety about being in the kitchen. I hope it didn't look too chaotic. I kind of felt in control. I felt more chaotic just talking to the camera. But you know, it's simple stuff, simple cooking. Doesn't have to be super fancy to taste good. So anyway, that'll wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed this meal prep and it gave you some ideas on your next meal prep. See you later.